Hi, my name is Jacob Melander. This is The House that Jack Built, my first novel. It's out now and I'm going to read a bit from it. I'm going to jump in one early summer evening. We have two high school students, one senior, one freshman, and they are alone in his parents' house. He carried the tray of tea and toast up the stairs, her gaze at his back just above the buttocks. She closed the door behind them. The tea can infuse while I'm in the shower. Why don't you make some honey sandwiches in the meantime? She picked up the jar and turned the glass in her hand. What is it? My own recipe. It's good. He disappeared into the bathroom. While he lathered up, he thought about the trip to the golf course last fall. Dad, so wrapped up in his 6 over par and X18 iron, had noticed that Christian had spent most of the day with his ass in the air. There's no better place to pick psilocybin mushrooms than a freshly mown golf course after a good rain. He came out of the shower with dripping hair and a towel around his waist. She sat staring at a piece of toast. She had spread a thick layer of honey on it. It was dripping everywhere. What's that? She prodded the mushroom with her knife. Eat. He let the towel fall to the floor. Found a pair of loose linen pants in the closet and pulled an old t-shirt over his head. Is the tea ready? He threw the towel on the bathroom floor and sat down next to her. Firmly but gently he pushed her hand with the honey sandwich towards her mouth. She looked up at him, held his gaze as she took the first bite and swallowed. You can't even taste it, she said. Of course you can't. They've been infusing since fall. He buttered a piece of bread with his concoction and poured tea into the thin green porcelain cups. They drank in silence, munched on the honey toast. Outside night descended. The house was quiet. Then he lay on the bed, yawned. He could tell by looking at her that all he had to do was pat the bedspread beside him and do his usual routine. Then she'd come to him. She swallowed. So what is it? Psilocybin mushrooms, liberty cat, acid. He looked up at the ceiling, followed the car headlights that swept through the window. Acid? Her voice trembled a bit. He sat up, swung his legs over the edge of the bed. It's a little like LSD or ecstasy. Don't worry, it's gonna be good. Christina got up and reached for the teacup. She walked carefully across the room and sat down on the bed next to him. You have to take care of me. Her eye had that familiar glassy look. He put his arm around her. She took small sips of the tea. Of course. Then he took the cup from her hand and placed it on the floor. He crouched over her, then pushed her onto the bed. Her mouth was warm from the tea. She tasted of Ceylon. A door opened somewhere in the house. Footsteps moved up the stairs, faded away. His hand was under her blouse now, stroking the little hairs on her belly, then moving farther up. She wrapped her arms around his neck and kissed him greedily. He didn't know how long they had been lying there. His hand moved towards her jeans. He undid one button, then another. She sat up, smiled. I just have to go to the bathroom. When she disappeared into the bathroom, he removed the bedspread and threw it on the floor. Then he rolled the comforter up against the wall and leaned back. The moon was dancing somewhere outside. Its light shone in through the window. Out there, the night shadows were alive. From the bathroom he heard the sound of denim on skin. She flushed the toilet. His fingers were so thick they started tinkling. The sheets exploded against the skin. The window frame buckled, collapsed, melted into large drops that slid onto the floor. Branches passed through the glass, stretched towards him. The smell of topsoil and rotting leaves filled the room. It was very hot. Still, he could see his breath, a pale cloud suspended in the middle of the room. She came out of the bathroom, whispered as she crawled into bed with him. I don't understand what you see in her. Her dad's a cop. Maria was his. He pulled her down to him, stopped her with a kiss. His entire body quivered. He was one great mouth. Her lips were so hot, and he could feel her tongue between his teeth. She began unbuttoning his pants. Flames licked the walls. The wallpaper curled as it disintegrated into brown flakes. Burnt confetti and embers sprinkled onto the bed, settled on their hair. He must have been gone, for now she had taken her blouse off and was sliding up his chest. He was naked, lying on his back, staring at the ceiling, following the lines between light and shadow. A blurry white face floated above the bed. a face with the mouth open in a muted scream. Empty eye sockets looked directly at him. He sat up with a start, slid out of her. "Shh," she said, pushing him back onto the bed. She tried to pull him inside her again. With a sudden start, he pushed back. She tumbled backwards, hit her face on the edge of the bed frame. She winced, looked up at him from the floor. Her eyes were two white slivers. A dark line ran from her nose down towards her cupid's bow. His hand trembled with excitement as he wiped the blood that was black in the moonlight from her lip and stuck his finger in his mouth. The salty taste of iron on tongue and palate. Her legs wobbled as she got up. He picked up her clothes and threw them out onto the landing, then pushed her naked body out of the door and shot it in her face. She scratched at the hollow door frame a couple of times and whispered his name, but he knew what he had to do. He was already grabbing his clothes. A faint sobbing trickled through the crack under the door, then she slipped quietly down the stairs. Only when the house was silent again, and he was certain that she was gone, did he open the door and bound down the stairs. It was time for a night out.